K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those who undertake. Attorney General's lying even while...
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, well, happy Friday evening, folks. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson, and we do have a lot to talk about because I have been absent from the chair for 2 days, and lots of things have happened in 2 days. But there's been some really interesting reasons why I've been absent for 2 days. I can't go into most of them, but we do have some stuff percolating and working behind the scenes that I do hope to be able to share with you shortly. One of them is one I'm still really proud of and actually am able to announce because we will start carrying it this coming Monday. The Tom O'Halloran Show is coming to K98 Talk. Sadly, he does 3 shows a week, and I couldn't talk him into doing a 4th one live because he tried that on another network, and he said it was just too much for him to do. However, we will start airing some of his shows. Basically, my plan is, because he has a ton of them. He's been doing them now for a while. So basically, we're going to run things just a little bit behind, because that way we can basically do what we need to do here behind the scenes. But basically, Monday through Friday, there will be an episode of the Tom O'Halloran Show. The Monday, Wednesday, Friday episodes will be his current ones from the previous week, and then Tuesday, Thursday will probably be older episodes that he has on file, and he has graciously allowed us to start playing them. So we are starting to add even more content, and we will actually start having... what I'm working on now is getting some daytime stuff filled up. So his will probably air sometime between maybe 12 to 1 Central. Still toying with that. I will let you know for sure this weekend, but we have now added the Twitter rockstar, Mr. Tom O'Halloran, to our lineup, even if it isn't as a live performance. Okay. Other stuff is in the works. Wish I could tell you, but I really can't yet. But I will soon. It's big. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. You just have to wait. Because I don't want to spoil the surprise. Okay, now, that being said, that's actually part of the reason why I haven't been here for the last couple of days. Mainly because I've been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Anyway, while I have been away, we've been rerunning a few other things here and there that I hope you guys have enjoyed. However, I do plan on this being the last of my absences for a while, as long as I can keep breathing and doing what I need to do. I have to say, the first part of the show may sound a little preachy, but there's something I have to get off my chest. I've been doing this now for a little over 2 years. I never started it with the intention of, or even the thought of being able to make money. But as it continues to grow and build, I'm starting to see that possibility. The problem is there have been a few people who shall remain nameless who at some point along the way have decided to get involved, mainly because I think they saw what they hoped were going to be quick dollar signs. And that's not what any of this was ever started for. I just want to be perfectly clear with that. If this ever makes money, that is a byproduct of the fact that we have poured blood, sweat, and tears into this, not because we set out to do that. But there are some people who, again, shall remain nameless, who at some point along the way saw what it was that a couple of us were trying to do and suddenly decided they wanted to try to get in on it too, and then kept trying to push it to the point of, well, we should do this so we can make money, and we should do that so we can make money, and why are we not doing things this way so we can make money? So there have been some things that have been going on that I haven't exactly been that kosher with, so there are going to be some changes here. Because, again, this never started with the idea of, hey, I'm going to do radio full-time and I'm going to be rich. Hey, if I can find a way to do this full-time and make money, then great, but that's not why this started, and that's not my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal, and we're slowly getting there, and you'll understand more when I can make my announcements that we're still kind of sewing together behind the scenes, is to get the best group of people here possible to put out a message that wakes people up. Now, a lot of you are looking at this from only the liberal perspective or even the conservative perspective. I'm really not, because the bottom line truth is, There's a little bit of truth to both sides. Unless you go full on like socialism is good and drink the whole communist Kool-Aid, there are liberals out there who basically really do want kind of the same things we do. They just have a different idea of how we're supposed to get there. That's what America's about. That's what I want to bring back to the forefront. That's what all of this was started for, was to get people to put down their blue banners and their red banners and to stop screaming across the aisles at each other and realize, again, and I know I've said this before and some of you are probably getting really tired of hearing it, but I'm going to say it again. We, as the American people, have a bazillion times more things in common with one another, no matter what our political stances are, than we do these nozzles in D.C. And if you honestly, at this point, really think there's that much of a difference between the Republican and the Democratic Party, then you're honestly not paying attention. It's just that simple. You're not paying attention. Look at what's happened since the Republicans have had full control of both both houses of Congress. Anything good come out of that yet? Lots of talking, lots of chest pumping, lots of, high fives, fist bumps, and yet everything still continues to muddle through. And nothing's getting done yet again. I've said it before, if it were me and I was the leader of one of the houses of Congress, I would put every single thing we wanted at the desk of the president. Make him veto every single one, so that when it becomes time for elections, you can go to the American people and say, these are the things that we tried to pass while we had the torch. These are the things that we tried to get done. He vetoed every single one of them. One of the first things they tried to do was an abortion reform. I get it. Abortion is bad. Abortion is murder. I understand that. I'm with you guys on that, but we can't keep holding the rest of the country to our moral standards. As much as it pains me to say that, we can't do that because there are too many people that don't hold the same standards as we do. And the simple fact of the matter is, even if you were able to make abortion illegal, it would still happen. So why can we not keep it the way it was intended when the law passed, Roe v. Wade? Safe, rare, and legal. The problem is it's not rare anymore. That's what we need to focus on. But and I promise it ties together. This is kind of the same problem we've had going on over here, or at least I have personally, because I feel like I've kind of gotten off in the weeds instead of doing what I knew I needed to do to continue to build this, because I started getting so consumed by people whispering in my ears about how we had to have money, we had to make money, this has to make money. This isn't about money for me. The money will take care of itself. That's the thing that I've never been able to make anybody understand. If we get this right and we do what we should do here and we do it consistently every day, then the advertisers and the money will take care of itself. And I'm back to focusing on that again because I didn't start this to make money. I have a job. If I can make this my job at some point along the way, that's great. If I can't, you know what? That's not what I started it for. So I'm going to say this, and this is hopefully for the last time. I apologize to everyone who's been with us every step of the way, who has seen some of the things that have been going on here, and you've been able to see that occasionally our shows aren't where we like to keep them, and occasionally we do things a little differently in the hopes that maybe somebody extra special was listening. We're kind of done with that. I'm going to make sure that any show that's here brings you the messages that I think you need to hear. And every single host that's still with us understands the goal. And that's what I want to make clear to you today. We're not in this to make money. If we can find a way to make money, that's great. And I've been doing this long enough now that I think I have quite a few different ways we could probably do that. But we're not. We have to focus on this. This is what matters, because if the content's not there, nobody's going to buy it anyway. And I have too many people that have not understood that. So I'm done. I'm done pandering. I'm done shifting from one side to the other. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be me on the air. This is who I am. I will tell you up front, I am a conservative, but I don't always think conservatives have all the right answers. If that makes me a traitor in your eyes, then feel free to turn off the radio right now. Radio, website, whatever you're listening, however you're listening. You don't have to listen to me. You have a choice. I appreciate every single one of you that take the time to turn this on every day, because lately, up until recently, I'd been doing this show, and this show alone 6 days a week, and then doing 2 others. One of them has been tabled indefinitely due to some differences with the co-host. However, I am trying to work on a way to bring that back, possibly using a second co-host. But we will go from there. We will still be doing this one 6 days a week and Finding Common Ground every Saturday. And at some point, if I can't get the Wake Up America show back on track, we may start doing a second one, Finding Common Ground, maybe in prime time. I don't know yet. But we will have to wait and see. But at this point, I have to tell you, again, what we do and how we get involved and what we do to try to make a difference matters. And for those of you that are stumbling around trying to find a way to make a difference in whatever your little corner of America is, there is a way. You just have to find it. Maybe you can't be one of the ones going from door to door. Maybe you don't get around very well. Maybe you don't have the voice to do public speaking. But you can write. The internet is the best tool that we have right now, and we need to make sure that we use it while we can. So if you hear my voice, and if there is a passion, and you know there's something inside of you that you have said at this point, that there's something that you've always wanted to do. I don't even at this point, let me be honest, my passion is political talk radio. It has been for a very long time. One of my first experiences with talk radio was Rush Limbaugh. I was probably 15, 16 years old. I didn't have any idea that anything like that existed. But from the first time I heard him, I knew somehow, some way I wanted to find a way to get it done. Life got in the way, other things became more important, but now here I am, after 2 years of false starts, revamping, retooling, going from one platform to the other, going from one company name to the other, and then basically now winding up where I am with a business partner who helped me put an entire station together. Although I'll admit begrudgingly at first, because he thought I was crazy when I told him my ideas. But now here we sit. So whatever your driving force is, find a way to make it part of your daily life, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes a day. Whatever has you excited, as long as it's not something that's going to, I got to be careful because this does have worldwide reach. If it's not something that's going to hurt somebody else, and it's not something that's going to put you on the news or wind up putting you on Interpol, then, find a way to make it part of your life. Even if it never goes everywhere that you think it might, at least for a few minutes a day, you're doing something that makes you feel better, and therefore can at some point along the way hopefully help you make a difference. That's what this has always been about for me. That's it. It's that simple. We don't have much time left if things don't change. And I honestly can't tell you today if they're supposed to change or if this is a futile effort. Because I can tell you that there's a particular book I've read that at the very end, things seem to be going the direction they're supposed to be going, to say that this is almost the end of the game. I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to worry about whether or not that's true. The one thing that I do know is while there is still time left, I will use whatever talents and abilities that I have to try to help reach people and to help make a difference. And if that turns into something that might make me money, then that is a side effect. And it is a necessary evil if at some point I want to try to keep this thing growing. But it's not my end-all and be-all. So for all of you, and you know who you are, who have been in my ear about, well, you should do things this way because then we can try to sell it, or you should do things that way because then you should try to sell it, or we should focus on this right now so that we can get advertisers because otherwise, if not, I'm going to have to stop doing what we're doing. You know what? I'm not going to worry about any of that anymore. I can't, because that pulls me away from the actual point of this, which is to make a difference and to wake up you, the few American people that actually listen to me. I mean, come on, I mentioned Rush Limbaugh, and I may be on a website that has folks like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and Jerry Doyle and a bunch of other awesome conservative talk radio show hosts up there, but let's face it, I'm nowhere near their caliber. I know this. I understand this. I accept my place in this particular scheme of things, but it is not going to stop me from trying to use the talents that I have to make people understand exactly what the hell is going on in this country. And let me tell you what the hell is going on in this country right now today. We have the biggest, whiniest, most petulant commander-in-chief and POTUS I have ever seen in my life. I mean, come on. Just do me a favor. Sometime when you've got an extra 3 weeks, go to YouTube and punch in Obama's pissed. Look at all of the different things that pop up with him acting like a complete and total tool to anybody that doesn't get things done exactly the way he wants them done. And then you tell me that everything is right with this country. This man is the most vindictive, the most shallow, the most angry person I think I have ever seen in my life. I mean, if you don't believe me, let's get into what the show's actually about today. I don't have to tell you what I think. I can let you hear exactly what he thinks. So let's roll a few clips.
I'll be honest with you. I thought after what happened at Sandy Hook that would make us think about it. The hardest day of my presidency, I've had some hard days, but nothing compares to being with the parents of 26-year-old kids, beautiful little kids, and some heroic teachers and administrators in that school just 2-3 days after they had been just gunned down in their own classroom. And you would have thought at that point, that's got to be enough of a motivator for us to want to do something about this. And we couldn't get it done. I mean, there was just, at least at the congressional level. So what we've done is we have tried as much as we can administratively to implement background checks and to make sure that we're working with those states and cities and jurisdictions that are interested and willing to partner with us to crack down on the illegal use of firearms, particularly handguns. But I'll be honest with you, in the absence of more what I would consider heroic and courageous stances from our legislators, both at the state level and the federal level, it is hard to reduce the easy availability of guns. And as long as you can go on to, in some neighborhoods, and it is easier for you to buy a firearm than it is for you to buy a book. There are neighborhoods where it's easier for you to buy a handgun and clips than it is for you to buy a fresh vegetable. As long as that's the case, we're going to continue to see unnecessary violence. But I guess I'll end by saying this. Despite those frustrations, despite the failure of Congress to act, despite the failure of too many state legislators to act, in fact, in some places it goes the opposite direction. People just say, well, we should have firearms in kindergarten, and we should have machine guns in bars. And you think I'm exaggerating? I mean, you look at some of these laws that come up.
All right, so yeah, that's an older clip. We've got some newer ones, don't worry. But I just wanted to point out one little segment there where he starts talking about the fact that in certain neighborhoods, it's harder to buy fresh vegetables than it is to buy a weapon. Let that sink in for a second. The President of the United States of America just stood up in front of a room full of reporters and said, "Let me be clear." Sorry, I can't do Obama impressions, which is probably good because anytime, if it was me, that I was kind of hearing that voice coming from. See, anytime he talks, I have this urge to just punch something in the face. So if it were me doing the talking, I would probably be punching myself in the face repeatedly. Now, again, last time I checked, you don't have to produce identification to buy fruit. You don't have to pass a background check to buy fruit. So the fact that you, the person who is supposed to be the leader of the free world, have the nerve to stand up in front of a group full of people and say, well, it's easier in some neighborhoods to buy a gun than it is to buy fruit. You, sir, are full of crap. And the scariest part for you is people are finally starting to see it. And that's what has you slowly unraveling. I mean, one of the biggest liberal people I know put a tweet out the other night talking about, since Netanyahu won, even though your administration was so big on trying to make sure that he got defeated, that there was a certain prime minister in England who was in a rather close electoral battle, and he wanted you to do him a favor and come try to rally the other side, because apparently you suck at it. Just about like you suck at everything else. Okay, so, sorry, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. My little co-host who usually hangs out with me, Miss Ellie, is freaking out because there is food cooking in another room, so she can't decide whether she wants to be in here or be out there, so had to deal with that for a second, and do apologize about that, folks. But let's keep on going, because we are already almost a half hour in. Doesn't seem like it takes very long when I get on a rant or two. But we've played one, so this is my favorite one from lately. So we're going to play this one real quick, and then we'll get back onto his little temper tantrums.
President Obama wants to talk about the possibility of adding voting to the list of life certainties that already includes death and taxes. Correspondent Peter Ducey digs a little deeper on an idea that seems logical to some and lunacy to others.
President Obama has been trying to get people to vote for years.
Don't boo, vote.
Now he apparently wants to make people vote in every election, whether you like it or not.
In Australia and some other countries, there's mandatory voting. It would be transformative if everybody voted. That would counteract money more than anything.
Translation?
If you did have a universal or near universal turnout, the Democratic vote would go up.
Just last month, President Obama said that if more people voted in the last election, his life would be easier.
Our Congress would be completely different. We would have already passed comprehensive immigration reform.
But Mr. Obama easily won 2 terms with current rules, so some see a double standard.
He was happy as a clam in 2008 when he did really well, and scoffed at it in 2010 and 2014.
On top of that, concerns about fraud. The Heritage Foundation warns that just making everyone register, quote, could result in the registration of large numbers of ineligible voters, as well as multiple or duplicate registrations. And there are concerns about quality control.
I don't think you want people who are uneducated about politics to be participating. You want to educate them first and then have them participate.
To that end, some presidential hopefuls say people should only vote if they want to.
I wish more people would participate in politics too, but that is their choice. That is the choice of living in a free society.
Countries like Brazil, Egypt, and Turkey penalize people for not voting, but it's unclear how such a regulation, which would likely require a constitutional amendment, would be enforced here.
Would you have a truant officer trying to hunt you down at the local bar?
The White House said today the president was provocative, but not pitching new policy. Should the government mandate voting? Critic and editor George G. Nathan once said, bad officials are elected by good citizens who do not vote. Brett?
Peter, thank you. So what do you think about mandatory voting? Let me know at facebook.com/BrettBaerSR or on Twitter @BrettBaer. You can use the hashtag special report. Send us something good. We may use it later with the panel. President Obama has ordered the federal government to cut its emissions of greenhouse gases by 40%. A new executive order also mandates increased use of renewable energy, a reduction in water consumption, and adding more hybrid and zero-emission vehicles to the federal fleet. Apparently, a lot of Americans have not been listening to reports of the latest Supreme Court challenge to Obamacare. A new Kaiser poll indicates 53% of those surveyed say they have not heard anything about the case, which could result in the elimination of subsidies to subscribers in federal exchanges. Earlier this week, we told you about a discrepancy in sign-up numbers. The administration says more than 16 million Americans have gained coverage since the law took effect 5 years ago. But a large daily survey called the Gallup Healthways Well-Being Index, who took into account insurance losses, says the reality is fewer than 10 million. The White House disputes those findings. Stocks were mixed. The Dow lost 107.
All right, so there was a lot in that one, but I left it all intact on purpose. So, we live in a free country, right? But now we have a president who's floating the idea of making it mandatory that everybody has to vote. What about that as actual freedom? Then, let's move on to the next part, which I think is funny that they just kind of slid that in there. New regulations from the EPA. You know the ones they didn't mention? That they want to start regulating the emissions of your grill. Don't believe me? Look it up. But this is the land of the free, home of the brave, right? So we have a president who lies to the American people repeatedly. Nobody calls him on it. Throws fits in front of the American people repeatedly. Nobody calls him on it. He can basically stand up and, make blatantly false statements like, in some neighborhoods it's easier to buy fruit than it is to buy a gun than it is to buy fruit. And nobody calls him on it. Then we have the EPA, which is basically the classic blob mentality of the government. It starts out small, starts out for a really good reason, starts being fed a few things. The next thing you know, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the bigger it gets, the more it needs, and the bigger it gets, the more it needs, and the bigger it gets, the more it needs. This is our federal government. Have you seen the movie? You know, let's just back up just for a second. You know the movie The Blob, and no, I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking about the old one, where, you know, this little bitty harmless looking little thing, you know, comes in from somewhere, probably outer space, and starts slowly devouring everything that it can find. And while it's doing that, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This is our government. This is what we've done to ourselves. We have let it become a monster. Look at the EPA. It was started with the best of intentions, because even we as conservatives look around and say we need to make sure that we're leaving the world a better place than we find it, which is what the mandate of the EPA was. It's the Environmental Protection Agency, for God's sake. We're supposed to make sure that the air is clean, the water is drinkable, the sky stays blue, the grass stays green. But the problem is, each year, now that all of these regulations are in place, that little three-letter agency has to continue to justify its existence, and it does that by making up more and more and more stupid crap. All right, so we're a little bit long. We're going to have to take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back. We will continue talking about a couple of other points in that little sound clip, and then we will finish up with the rest of Obama's recent temper tantrums. And something that actually, the first time I heard it, made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But we'll talk about that when we come back. All right, folks, this has been America Off the Rails. First half of the show. We'll be right back with you here in just a few minutes to finish things up. And again, we'll talk about what I heard the president say that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So stay tuned.
Hey, it's Cliff Davis from KLCI FM, the best radio station in the world. Coming soon. Stay tuned.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program, America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
This is Misty, owner of Wax It Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
Will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place.
Nothing like hitting the wrong button in the middle of trying to come back from commercial. You ever have one of those days? Alright, so anyway, where were we? We were talking about the fact that lots of interesting things were in that last clip that we just heard. The mandatory voting, the regulations from the EPA, the fact that nobody's even really thinking or paying attention to the fact that the Supreme Court is looking at the Obamacare. Something else that this particular administration decided they needed to make mandatory, which was healthcare coverage. How's that working out for you? Mandatory things are bad. Can we just all say that together? Let's take a breath and we'll do it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Mandatory things are bad. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way now, because the more things they make mandatory, the less free you are going to be. Now, and no, I know I teased you before commercial. We're not talking about what I heard that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. At least not yet. Have other stuff we need to talk about first, so we'll get to that here in just a couple minutes. So we do have this one. Let's listen to this one. This one's not very long.
We very much want to thank our private sector partners. You guys have done an outstanding job. And because of the prominence of many of the companies here, and the fact that they've got a whole bunch of suppliers up and down the chain, what you do with respect to energy efficiency is going to have a ripple effect throughout the economy, and we're very pleased with that. So thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry, we were talking about energy, and it's a great story. So hopefully you'll focus on it. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so I had the guys edit that down because it was like 5 minutes of video, and it just, again, Obama talks 1-2 punch things, so trying to keep that curbed. You'll notice, basically, this was one of his little fluff pieces talking about alternative energy sources, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Yeah, if it was really all that great, we wouldn't have lost our shirts in Solyndra as a nation. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not supposed to talk about that. But anyway, so back to what I was talking about. Obama. The very end of that little clip there, you hear a reporter who tries to ask him a very specific question. Because, something else that folks really aren't talking about. You know how Obama's working all these deals with Iran, and he thinks we should trust them, and we should give them a chance. And, he's out there singing, all we are saying is give peace a chance. Okay, so he's not really singing it, and sorry for anybody whose ears just started bleeding. But, yeah, so anyway, so, the simple fact of the matter is there's all these little preliminary steps to this deal-making thing, and there's already kind of a preliminary agreement in place while we keep working towards this bigger agreement that, again, we probably won't really know anything about until it's already said, done, and over. But that's a story for another day. But here's the kicker. Iran is already breaking the preliminary deal to the big deal. So what this reporter was trying to ask him about was, hey, Mr. President, what's going on with Iran? And Mr. President's like, hey, yeah, we're not talking about that. We're talking about energy right now. This is the story I want you to focus on. Don't look over there. You look over here. Be a good little stooge. Focus on what I want you to focus on. These are not the headlines you are looking for, as he waves his arm like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the reporter's like, but Mr. President, there's often more than one story that happens at a time. Can we talk about Iran? No, focus here. Go back to sleep. It's okay. Just go back to sleep. It'll be all right. I am the fearless leader. I tell you what to say, what to do, what to think. You no question me. Okay, so that was like a really terrible Kim Jong-un impression, which is the first person that I kind of thought of when I was listening to Obama basically continue to smack down someone who's like, hey, I'm just trying to get to the truth here, Mr. President. No truth for you. Okay, so next one. What do we got here? Oh yeah, here's another one. This one's a little older one again, but it's kind of fun. So we're gonna play this one too.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister. Mr. President, I want to follow up a little bit on the peace process. You began your term, your first term, big fanfare.
Now, this is a
Cairo
flashback.
speech to
This
talk
is
to the Muslim world.
One of the press conferences.
The decision to have a Middle East envoy early. You said you weren't going to let this slip to your second term. We're in your second term with the Mideast peace process. What went wrong? Why are we further away from a two-state solution? I know you said you want to talk more about this tomorrow, but I am curious to, what do you believe went wrong? Did you push Israel too hard? What do you wish you would have done differently? And Mr. Prime Minister, I want to help out my colleague over here on the follow-up that he had, which had to do with, do you accept the President's understanding that Iran is a year away when it comes to nuclear weapons? And then another question I had for you is, why do you
Chuck,
believe...
how many you got? Do you guys do this in the Israeli press? You say you get one question and then you add
well,
like
I'm
five.
helping him. I'm helping him with his
You see how the young lady from Channel 1, she had one question? She was very well behaved, Chuck.
I've got one for you.
These are Talmudic questions. They have
I thought I had 4 questions.
reiterations.
Passover starts in a couple days. I get 4 questions.
Look, this is not a kosher question, but don't hog it.
I guess my question to you was going to be, why do you believe the Israeli people have not embraced President Obama the same way they embraced our last 2 U.S. presidents? Thank you.
Okay. So you had to get a polling question in there right at the end.
Somebody didn't.
I mean, you're just incorrigible.
But look, you see it over and over and over again. And if you don't believe me, it's all there. It's on YouTube. Go look for yourself. This guy, anytime anybody asks him a question he doesn't like, turns into a douche. Anytime somebody says something that he doesn't want to hear, he turns into a douche. He's doing it to Israel now. Oh yeah, I did promise that we were going to talk about that certain thing that I heard that kind of made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So now would be as good a time as any, I guess. Pretty sure it's this one.
President Obama today escalated hostilities between his
it.
administration and Israel. The Obama administration has reportedly taken under serious consideration a United Nations Security Council resolution that calls for the establishment of a sovereign Palestine and a return to pre-1967 borders that would divide Israel from the West Bank and Gaza. That would be a historic change in the stance that would empower the United Nations, well beyond its charter, while abrogating, in fact, the sovereignty of both the United States and Israel. Concerningly, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest today would not rule it out.
Because of his pretty clear indication that he's prepared to withdraw from very serious commitments that Israel had previously made to a two-state solution, that does and has prompted us to reevaluate our approach to this matter.
President Obama today finally brought himself around to actually talk with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. It took him 2 days to do so, but we understand Mr. Obama actually congratulated the Prime Minister on his resounding victory. But no one in this country nor Israel missed the insult. An American president who spent 48 hours ignoring the electoral verdict of the Israeli people in their choice of Prime Minister.
All right, so there you have it. Now, let me see if I can wrap my head around this. So basically, what's been happening for the past several weeks is we have actively had folks on the ground in Israel campaigning against Prime Minister Netanyahu. We have been trying to basically make sure that his opponent won election. Now that hasn't happened, all of a sudden this story comes out of Obama will saying, well, if he's going to back away from his statements about a two-state solution, then we're just going to go back to basically the pre-1967 borders, and we're just going to divide everything up. Because if he's not going to play by our rules, well, fuck him. You know, that's basically what he said. Screw him. He's not going to play by my rules. I'm bigger than he is. We're better than he is. He can't do this to us. So we're not going to let him. So we're just going to pretend that what happened in post-67 never happened. And we're just going to make it all go away. That'll teach him. That'll show that little upstart Israeli that he doesn't know who he's messing with. This is what we sound like to the world right now. Let that sink in. Now, a few weeks ago, I gave you a homework assignment. I never really, at least I don't remember if I did, I never really got back to it other than maybe on Twitter. I'd asked you specifically where Valerie Jarrett was born. Any of you bother to look it up? Did you go look? I'll give you a hint. It's not I walked. It's Iran. So one of the people, the most influential people in the president's life, the person who consistently and constantly has his ear, and at last report had her testicles in it. I'm sorry, I said her testicles. I was thinking of Michelle. His testicles, should they actually exist, because they've never yet been confirmed. Supposedly locked securely in her purse, is from Iran. Do you think it's any coincidence that this particular president, who has an advisor from the country of Iran, is suddenly working so hard to find peace with Iran, and at the same time continually thumbing his nose at Israel? I tell you now, this scares me. This makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We have never, in my lifetime, had a president who was so openly anti-Israeli. And as a Christian, that concerns me. Now, I have lots of friends who aren't Christians, and right now, if they're listening, they're rolling their eyes, because here I go, talking about my faith, and how my faith is the only one that matters, and mine's the only right answer. Well, you know, I'm sorry. That's what I believe. If you don't like it, we don't have to talk anymore. I don't try to shove it down your throat. I don't come to you every day and say, get saved or you're going to go to hell. I probably should be, but that's not how I roll. But wait, I mean, let that sink in. You know what? Let's play it again, just in case you missed it the first time.
President Obama today escalated hostilities between his administration and Israel. The Obama administration has reportedly taken under serious consideration a United Nations Security Council resolution that calls for the establishment of a sovereign Palestine and a return to pre-1967 borders that would divide Israel from the West Bank and Gaza. That would be a historic change in the stance that would empower the United Nations, well beyond its charter, while diminishing, abrogating, in fact, the sovereignty of both the United States and Israel.
Okay, so let's focus on that last part. This would push the United Nations power well past its intended charter, while abrogating the power of the United States of America. If this happens, and please bear with me because I'm going to piss somebody off, but if this happens, it seems somewhat appropriate that while we, the American people, have been abrogating our responsibilities, we now have a president who's basically been abrogating the relevancy of the United States of America. This is the thing that's been happening while nobody's been paying attention. He has systematically and steadily, piece by piece, bit by bit, brought our standing down in the world. I've even now heard other talk show hosts talking about Israel now assuming the mantle of the leader of the free world because they're the only ones that are willing to stand up to tyranny, while we hem and haw and wring our hands and say, but we might hurt somebody's feelings if we call them a terrorist. Well, by God, if they're acting like a damn terrorist, we should probably call them a damn terrorist. If they don't want to be called a terrorist, then they should probably stop behaving like one. It's not a hard concept. It's really not. So in closing, I have one last clip, and this is not Obama related, but this is in relation to 2016, because let me tell you something. I opened the show by telling you there really is not much of a difference between Democrats and Republicans. I still stand by that statement, but I still have hope that there are some actual legitimate conservatives left somewhere on this planet. I'm hoping I'm speaking to several of them right now. I hope that there are a few congressional leaders. I know there are some of you out there because you follow me on Twitter. So I know some of you listen to this show because why the heck else would you follow my Twitter account? So if you're there and you're listening, we need you to stand up before it's too late. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting people like we've had for the last 6, now almost 7 years. And we don't need that type of people anymore. And if you don't believe me, the clip that I'm going to play right before we shut everything down is from someone that you'll probably recognize. And it's a recent news story. So let's close with this, just to show you exactly how screwed up the administration has been this entire time, and nobody's talking about it.
Things got so heated at a UC Regents meeting today, students started taking off their clothes in protest. Night Beat's Mark Kelly tells us tonight the UC president's reaction has students even more fired up. Mark?
Well, Veronica, President Janet Napolitano's mic was hot during the meeting, and she made it clear what she thinks of these protesters. As the protests began, the camera stayed on the Regents. There was some confusion over what to do. UC President Janet Napolitano leans over to a colleague and says, quote, "Let's just break. Let's go. Let's go. We don't have to listen to this crap." Hear it for yourself.
Let's just break. What? Let's go. What? Let's go. We don't have to listen to this crap.
Christian Kim was one of the students protesting 5% tuition increases every year for 5 years.
It's an insult to have her as the president of the UC.
To make their point loud and clear, protesters, including Kim, stripped down to their underwear, revealing the words student debt written on their bodies. She called what you were doing crap.
I don't know where she's coming from, honestly, but I'm assuming she's never had to deal with these issues personally. So I can understand where there would be a disconnect there.
The UC president crap comment was a much different tone from this Napolitano speech at the very same meeting.
They want to be sure that their voices are being heard, and I want to commit to them that their voices are being heard.
On the Night Beat, I'm Mark Kelly in Berkeley.
Protesters suspect today's Regents meeting was scheduled in the middle of a busy week of midterms, but they aren't stopping the protest until their message is heard.
All right, so there you have it from Miss Janet Napolitano. Anybody remember who she was before she went on to become the president of UC Berkeley? Anybody? Bueller? Really? Nobody knows? Are you telling me nobody knows who Janet Napolitano was? Not one of you out there in Twitter land or in Facebook land. I'm just kidding. Just to make sure I give you all the information, because yes, I know who she is and what she did right off the top of my head, but just to make sure we're being thorough, Janet Napolitano, now president of UC Berkeley. Janet Napolitano is an American politician and lawyer who served as governor of Arizona from 2003 to 2009 and United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Yeah, head of DHS. She was part of Obama's cabinet. Basically just got caught speaking out of both sides of her ass on a hot mic. So yeah, From 2009 to 2013, Director of Homeland Security under President Obama. She's been president of the University of California system since September 2013, shortly after she resigned as Secretary of Homeland Security. Prior to her election, she served as governor, Attorney General of Arizona from 1999 to 2003. She was the first woman and the 23rd person to serve in that office. Napolitano is the 1977 Truman Scholar from New Mexico. She's been the first female to serve in several offices, including Attorney General of Arizona, Secretary of Homeland Security, and President of the University of California. Bet you they're wishing they'd have picked somebody else now. Alright, so that will probably do it for today, but as a reminder, 2016 is coming up soon. Even if you disagree with 99.9% of what comes out of my mouth, first of all, it astounds me that you could disagree with that much of what I'm saying and yet still listen to this show, but hey, go right ahead. We are running out of time, and a few days back we did do an interview with Jason DeWilkins from According to Me, and he basically pointed out he thinks we need probably at least one more presidential election full of pain for everyone to finally wake up. Now, while I may not disagree with his sentiment, I'm not sure we can survive one more election, especially since right now the front runner is Hillary Rodham Clinton. Come on, think about it. Bill Clinton, first gentleman of the United States. Has anybody thought this through? Think about this for just a second. Picture, if you will, a state dinner in, let's say, Tunisia. There are 14 world leaders that are in a meeting, and that leaves their spouses to keep one another company. Do we really want the first philanderer, the first gentleman, to be alone with all the wives of foreign leaders? This somehow seems like a very, very bad idea. All right, folks, that's going to do it for tonight. We're going to go ahead and cut it a couple minutes short. Technically, we ran a little bit long. This one will probably be up for about an hour because I haven't yet prepped the stuff that usually comes on behind me. So if you're tuning in at the very end, here in just a couple seconds, it will probably go back to the show that was on before this one, which was Voice of Global Freedom Radio. Then we will have, then it should roll right back into this one. Then shortly after that, it will go on to the folks that typically come on right behind me. Do apologize, like I said, there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Lots of things I've been working on, so I hadn't had a chance to prep a lot of the stuff for the day. We will be back tomorrow live for 3 hours tomorrow morning from 9 Central to noon Central with Finding Common Ground, hosted by myself and Bryce Robinson, then rolling right straight into Opinion Nation, where the liberal host tries to give you the facts as he sees them and then waits for you to give an opinion. He tries to be pretty balanced. I have to admit, for a liberal, he's not a bad guy. I know it hurts for me to say it too, but you should at least give it a listen. Last week's episode was pretty entertaining. Due to technical issues, that one has not made it to podcast yet. I will get it up tomorrow, shortly after we do the new one. And then, of course, I will be back with you from 11 to noon tomorrow. And then returning to the airwaves, I am so sorry, there's way too much blood in my caffeine stream. Then returning to the airwaves for the first time in a few weeks, Sunday will be God's Pure Word of Faith with Richard Harden, running from 6 to 8. And then all the normal stuff that you catch here on K98 Talk. All right. I am going to shut things down for the night. You guys have a really, really good rest of your evening. And thanks to everybody who's tuned in listening to us today. And we will see you when we see you.
Also known as The Bunny, and you're listening to America Off the Rails.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man.